Bloodgate's deck is the last one today. All right. When we first started talking about rotation and renewal, we introduced plans for Arena's non-rotating format Historic. At the time, we announced what Historic would be available as a best-of-one play queue, and there weren't any plans to add additional events, older sets, or ranked queues, and today we're saying most of that has changed. Yay, listening to feedback. After considering some player feedback, we went back to the drawing board and came to this conclusion. It should feel distinct from other constructed formats, namely Standard. There should be some competitive aspect to it, i.e. ranked. We need to find a balance for the long-term health of Magic Arena. This is really important. You want your players who are invested in Arena now to not feel like they're obligated to keep putting money in to keep playing the game. You want them to have a meaningful experience to play forever with the stuff that they've already bought. So here's the changes that we're going to have. Let's start with bullet point 1, how Historic can provide a unique digital experience that didn't just feel like old Standard. The answer is add new cards to Historic. Sure. Starting in November, we're going to add new cards to Magic Arena from across Magic's history for play in Historic and events. No restrictions on sets, types, or rarity, and no holds barred, just new. So here's an interesting thought. What if they never planned to bring Historic to paper and they introduced digital only mechanics in these cards for Historic? I wonder if that's what we'll see with this. That's an option on the table, right? Like if they don't plan to give support to this format in paper, they could do actual digital mechanics. No restrictions on sets, types, no holds barred, new. This means new cards, right? We also plan to do this regularly, starting with approximately 15 to 20 cards in November, with the reoccurring goal of adding more new cards every quarter after that. And see, this isn't exactly what we talked about, but it's very smart on their part. So, Magic and trading card games go in cycles, or cyclical, right? Hype is highest around a set release, and then it tapers off in somewhere between the 6 to 8 week marker, and then it gets hype when a new set releases again. So by doing this every quarter, November is 2 months after the next set releases and things rotate. So basically, in between each main set release, we're going to get new cards to Historic, which allows them at that 6 to 8 week low hype mark infuse some excitement in Arena around Magic and content in general with the application. So that's very smart. We know players would love to see entire sets added to Arena, but speaking candidly, the development time required to add hundreds of cards from older sets, knowing that only a few may have a positive impact on Historic, was more time than we could commit to. Adding full non-standard sets may come eventually, but right now we'd rather focus on adding meaningful cards in a timeline players to look forward to. Plague Vendor, thank you for the Twitch Prime support. Welcome. This paragraph is just, it's so excellent because I feel like it gives us a really nice level of transparency. It's very open and honest about why they're doing what they're doing, and the end result of what they're doing is ultimately what we want, right? Like, this is super true. If they created entire and coded entire sets worth of cards, most of them wouldn't see play in Historic. So only coding and testing the ones we actually want to play with and giving themselves this sweet no restrictions is great. How can we add a competitive aspect to Historic? If you answered at a ranked queue, you'd be correct. In addition to adding new cards to the format, we'll be expanding the ways in which you'll be able to play Historic. First and foremost, we'll be adding a Historic ranked queue for best of 3 in December. Though Historic ranked queue will contribute to the same constructed rank as Standard, Historic decks will only be matched against other Historic decks. Okay, sweet. So there's still just 2 ladders, but you can play Historic or Standard to qualify for constructed. When adding competitive aspects to Historic, we want to be careful to do so in a way that allows us to gauge the health of the format and the quality of matchmaking before diving any deeper. Once we get a feel for Historic plays, we'll be adjusting how often ranked play is available and whether Historic will have its own rank separate from Standard. Did I miss the last section of the paragraph? Initially, we plan to offer Historic ranked queue for a limited time, 4 weeks. Am I not understanding this? The Historic ranked queue will contribute to the same constructed rank as Standard. Sure, and then they're saying they might differentiate that at some point. Oh, it's only going to exist for 4 weeks. Got it. So only for 4 weeks. Sure. But ranked seasons are 4 weeks anyways. The other ways we're looking to expand on Historic play is by holding at least one Historic event per month starting in November. Monthly events should range from Historic versions of Singleton and Pauper to potentially new ways of playing. We're planning on these events to be a way for players to add new cards to their collection. Historic collection. Of all the criteria we've set, bullet point 3 will be the trickiest to navigate. We want to ensure that players new to Magic can still learn the ropes and start their collection through Standard and Draft as primary methods of play, with Historic available to seasoned players looking to explore some of Magic's rich history. Sure, they want new people to play Standard. That's duh. We say that all the time. Difficult problem to tackle, so we're changing how wild cards work for Historic cards. Starting after an update in November, crafting a Historic card will require you to redeem 2 wild cards of the appropriate rarity instead of 1. If a Historic card appears in the current Standard set, players will be able to redeem 1 wild card for a copy of the Standard version. However, the Historic version will still require 2. Sure, but just so people understand, this game isn't like Pokemon. You can play the Standard legal version in Historic. So if it's in both, you can get it for the normal cost. To give players some lead time on the transition, we're not going to make the change until November, giving players a chance to do this. Yeah, I'm positive. Chat, if a card is Standard legal, it's also Historic legal. So like what they're saying is if Shock is in M19 and Shock is in M20, you can play your M20 Shock for the same wild card. It'll just be different art. And while Historic sets are currently still available for purchase in the store, we plan to limit Historic sets to the 45-pack bundle. This tended to be the most popular bundle for players looking to expand their collection. This will go into effect starting on September 26. Okay, so this is the one part of this announcement that I think people are going to have some dissatisfaction with. But again, from a business perspective, they don't want new players jumping into Historic. This seems like it's going to make the format harder to get into. That's because it does. So this is the balance that they're doing. They're giving us more for Historic for those of us who want it, but they're still making it very clear at the same time that this is not intended for new players. Because again, remember, any format of Magic is optional to play. So if you think this is too steep, Standard is still available, or you can just play with cards that you already have. Because again, they would prefer people get into things with Standard. So overall, all of these changes are awesome. I actually think we talked about this, like them re-releasing sets every 6 weeks. This is actually better. Instead just releasing actual meaningful cards every quarter is much better than them working on entire sets. Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing too is like, right, once Historic settles a little bit, when you buy a deck in Historic, it's like in Modern, right? Like, I fully expect Historic to be just like Modern a few years from now, where there's just, you know, that's the Bluetron guy, and that girl over there, all she does is play elves. And them over in the corner, all they do is register burn at every tournament. You're gonna have those players that just like, they have their deck, and it doesn't matter what else gets printed, because regardless of how good or bad their deck is in the format, they love it, and they're gonna play it forever. And people will be able to have those decks and one buy-in and just play Magic and Historic on Arena for forever. Those people eating paste over there, definitely Tron players. All right, I'm pumped. That's great. This is great news. This is awesome. If you want to read this for yourself, there's other stuff in here. There's other stuff in there, so if you want to read it, I'm going to skim really quick, see if there's anything else in here I care about. Events and rewards. They're gonna print Drownlands in Historic. I'm certain of it. Oh, buddy. Oh, look, we have a roadmap. We have a roadmap. Things rotate. Players will be able to play with rotated cards. Oh, this is a little sad. So this does change my plans a little bit. So until November, the Historic queue is only gonna be best of one. So we were actually talking about earlier today, was I going to do Historic on stream? And this means I probably won't be doing Historic on stream till November, which is fine. Usually we get 6 to 8 reasonable weeks of good hype standard content. So this means I personally won't be touching Historic until we get a best of 3 queue, which is coming with this. November 19th, fully introduced Historic. Around 15 to 20 cards from Magic's history will be added. Additional Historic events at least once per month. Crafting will increase. Historic ranked play begins, and traditional Historic ranked queues will be available for play, sure. Yeah, Snapcaster Mage, things like Sweet Planeswalkers, you know? A lot of good stuff there. Let's be honest, those 15 to 20 cards are going to break things. Yeah, actually, just to give my last opinion on things, if you're someone who thinks you're going to brew for Historic in advance, those 15 to 20 cards that they're going to dump into the format will probably flip a lot of things on its head. So it's probably not worth brewing until you know what those 15 cards do, or what those 15 to 20 cards are. Hagak directly to Historic incoming. All right. We're gonna. I've got like an hour and a half before I gotta be done today because I do have to get Jake off the bus. So let's load up for some Sun Gates here as our last deck of the day.